Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Liz Punchin, and I'm the Director and Acting Branch Manager for People-to-People Recruitment in Melbourne. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome you online this afternoon for our Melbourne Talent webinar, Taking the Next Step in Your Career in Melbourne. On behalf of People to People, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the land in which I'm broadcasting the webinar to you today, the people of the Kulin Nation. And I also pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We have a jam-packed seminar for you this afternoon. First of all, I'm going to take you through a snapshot of the current state of the Melbourne market. My colleague, Katie Dean, she'll provide some tips on how to prepare for your next job interview. Vasila Shohan will be discussing how People-to-People can help grow your career in a digital age. And last but not least, Tom Alexander will be covering off counter offer and resignation management. There'll also be an interactive Q&A opportunity at the end of our presentation, but feel free to share your comments throughout the webinar this afternoon. So first things first, let's discuss the current state of the Melbourne job market. Great. Thanks, everyone. So all of the stats and figures that I'm going to share with you this afternoon come from the Australian Bureau of Statistics. So I'll be walking you through some visual snapshots of the market at the moment. So the first one I'd love to take you through is the job vacancies in Australia. So you can see on your screen there that we have data from the ABS from the last 40 years. And what you can see in particular is the extraordinary rise out of the COVID pandemic in 2020, where I'm sure you all can recall the devastating impact that COVID had on the economy and the employment market. But we did have a huge steep rise out of the COVID pandemic in the last couple of years, particularly in 2022. So although you can see a decline in job volume and jobs advertised in Australia in the last 6 to 8 months or so, it is still well above any other job vacancies ever recorded in the last 40 years. So we're still in a relatively strong position, and we are still seeing new positions coming into People-to-People across all of our branches, but particularly in Melbourne each and every week. So so although there is a decline there, there is still a lot of recruitment going on in the market. The next slide that I'd like to take you through is specifically looking at job vacancies per state. So we're looking specifically at Victoria, New South Wales and Queensland. So you can note the steep decline across all three states during the COVID period, and the nice healthy rise out of that. We all experienced a buoyant market post the COVID lockdowns, particularly in Victoria as well. But what you can see is the differences in each state. So I specifically want to refer to, I guess, the last in this calendar year, what we're looking at in Victoria. It has been more of a steady decline, whereas as compared into New South Wales, a bit more up and down, which is interesting. But as I said with the previous data, still well above previous years pre-COVID as well. The next slide I'd like to take you through is the reasons for vacancies in 2023. So it was a multiple choice question for all of the people that participated in this survey. So not all of the options will add up to 100%, but you can see remarkably in terms of replacements and resignations. So employees having the confidence to resign and change jobs and change employers, but equally employers having the confidence to backfill and replace those roles as well, which is always a good story, followed by increased workload and expansion of businesses as well, which is always good to see too. So it'll be interesting to see what that data looks like in the next 6 to 12 months as well. But certainly what we're hearing in the market is that candidates that are moving. Our clients and employers are replacing those roles either internally or getting new employees into their businesses as well. Let's look at job mobility next. So what does job mobility mean? So basically when employees move jobs, this does create opportunities. So job creation can also be from newly created roles as well. However, this graph is specifically looking at the percentage of employees that are moving around. So what we're feeling anecdotally is, although there is still movement happening, you would have heard the phrase "the Great Resignation" that took hold in particularly 21 and 22. There is a little bit more nervousness in terms of employees looking for job security and also the salaries that they're looking for. But you can see in the results here that very much on par with 2022 in terms of employees moving into new positions. So it'll be interesting to see what next year's results look like. I predict that it will come down slightly as it has been quite strong across last year and this year because of the fact that security will trump change, I feel. So we'll see what that looks like in the next 6 to 12 months. Next slide will take you through population growth, which is always an interesting one, the competition between the states. So you can see in terms of overseas interest that New South Wales and Victoria do have really strong interest in overseas candidates coming into their states. But interestingly, New South Wales did lose more of their residents than Victoria. Victoria only just a slight amount of employees moving to other states. So could be possibly COVID aftermath, also, of course, the cost of living, and sadly the weather does get a bad rap as well. But yeah, interesting to see with our friends in Queensland that they, although didn't get as much interest in overseas candidates and employees moving to the market, but they certainly have had a lot of the most out of any other state in terms of interstate interest. And you do hear that a lot in terms of the need for extra property in Queensland, and also the property prices really experiencing significant growth in the last 12 to 18 months or so. So yeah, so interesting stats there about population growth in relation to interstate moves. And I also want to talk to you about unemployment. So in terms of unemployment, Victoria is currently sitting at 3.493% unemployment as of August 23. There will be new stats that will be coming out in the next week or so. The national unemployment level in August was sitting at 3.7%. So Victoria is certainly slightly better than the national average, which is good to see. For Victoria, we have had a slight increase in unemployment from last year at 4.11% as of July of 22. So it's important to note that the Victorian unemployment reached an all-time high of 13.17% in 1994 and a record low of 3.022% in July of last year. And in recent years, unemployment peaked in Victoria at just above 7% in May of 2020, of course, reflecting the challenges that a lot of businesses had during the COVID lockdowns. So with that comparison alone, we're still in a really strong position in Victoria, considering a lot of the noise in the media about the economy overall. It still hasn't had a huge impact on unemployment levels, which is got a lot of people perplexed, but it obviously is a good news story that there is low unemployment still as well. Lastly, I'd love to take you through the largest employing industries. So no surprise that healthcare and social assistance is the highest, employing 16.2%, and it is up slightly from last year as well, followed by construction that's also seen growth, and then education and trade. So retail is slightly down from last year, less than less spending potentially, obviously with cost of living pressures, which has had an impact on staff needs. And the last industries to hit the top 5 was professional, scientific, and technology services. So all of those industries, by the way, we can support with temp, contract, and permanent staff. So particularly within office needs. So if that's an area that you're interested in, please connect with us as well. So I'll share with you now all of my contact details. So should you like to connect with me personally, please connect with me on LinkedIn, or you can reach out to me with my mobile number that's on the screen there. So 0403 930 653. Next up, I'd love to introduce my colleague, Katie Dean. So Katie will be discussing providing tips on preparing for your next job interview.
Great. Well, thanks so much for that, Liz. So hi, I'm Katie and I am the recruiter for permanent legal support roles. And I would love to share with you some tips to help you in your job interviews. So these tips are what I provide to candidates that I'm working with before they have an interview with a company. And I believe they can help anyone at any level in any industry. So the first one would be thorough research. It's really important to research the firms you are meeting with, take a deep dive into their website to understand their specialities. Have they won any awards? Does it have their values listed or mention any extra benefits that they provide for their staff? And also make sure you read the job advertised that you're going to the interview for. So this knowledge will be crucial as if they ask why you're interested in the company and the role. So yeah, you want to jump onto their website and have a look at who they are. So also you want to dress to impress. So even in virtual interviews, your appearance matters. So I suggest opting for a corporate top or a plain blazer. You want to make a good, strong first impression. Virtually, I would recommend putting a digital background on or blurring your background. Having a proper setup when you are meeting with someone is really important. I have had a couple of people interviewing while they're in their living rooms and their partners or their flatmates are in there watching TV or cooking food. And for an interview with a recruiter, it can be a bit more casual, but that won't leave a good impression to the company you are meeting with. So then I would also focus on basic prep. So to me, that would be Googling the address you're going to. I know I get really nervous, so I like to look on Google Maps, the route from the parking or the tram stop to the address. Also, if it's virtual, you want to make sure you've got the right software on your laptop. So sometimes Microsoft Teams or Zoom, if you want to pre-download the app onto your computer first. And yeah, so for the interview, I would say arrive 5-10 minutes max early. If you turn up 30 minutes early to an interview, maybe go get a coffee. I wouldn't check in at reception either until either 5 minutes before or on the time, just because it could unintentionally set the interview off on the wrong foot when they've booked you in at a specific time. So yeah, and if you think you might be late, I would ring the person you're meeting with straight away or having trouble logging on virtually as well. And then you want to know your CV inside out. So you want to familiarize yourself with your CV, understand where you've worked, what you've accomplished in those roles, and don't forget the dates of your employment. So it's really important to write down the months on your CV, as you will get asked about when you started and when you finished, and you don't want to be unsure or second guessing in the interview. And anything will get mentioned about any gaps in work as well. So you just kind of want to prepare for that. And then you also want to provide some in-depth answers. So remember, they want to get to know you. So I would share as much information and just be yourself. With duties, you don't just want to say day-to-day tasks or I work on end-to-end files or my role is customer service focused. This is your opportunity to shine and give those examples of what you do in the role. That could be how many calls do you get a day? How many files are you working with? How many people do you support? Do you oversee budgets or do cash handling? So you can add extra things into your in-depth answers. And then, yeah, it's always really crucial as well to talk about your current role or your previous role and give examples of what you currently do at the moment. And another tip to remember is to pause and see if the person that you're meeting with wants to ask you any more questions or probe on anything else. Sometimes I've met with someone who's talks for 15, 20 minutes nonstop, which is great because they wanted to give you so much information, but there's a bit of a difference for providing in-depth answers and unnecessary information. So you really want to listen to that question that you're being asked. Awesome. And then I would prepare for behavioral-based questions. So I would Google some and prepare your answers for these. So they could often start with something like, tell me about a time when you worked with a difficult person. Tell me about a time when you learned from failure, or how do you manage priorities. It's always really important, again, to relate that back to your current role and an example that you've just recently dealt with. And lots of people in retail or customer service would have probably had to deal with a difficult person. So yeah, you'll probably have some examples for that. You will also probably be asked about strengths and weaknesses. So you do want to kind of think about that and potentially think about a weakness. You want to turn it into either a positive or what you're doing to improve that, so it isn't a weakness. You can also use the STAR method, which is situation, task, action, and result when providing examples. And then it kind of ties into my next tip, which is to stay positive. So you really want to maintain a positive demeanor throughout. So even if you've had a challenging experience or working with a difficult person, you want to focus on the lessons learned and how you're growing in that situation. And then also ties into my next one of being clear, concise, and confident. So when you are responding to these questions, it's really important to aim for clear and calm, confident answers, as it signals to the hiring managers that you are going to be comfortable interacting with senior staff internally and externally. And confident isn't being direct or, I guess, harsh or kind of loud in the interview. It's having confidence in yourself with your answers and how you present yourself. For example, when you're talking about the reason for leaving, which will come up as a question about why you're leaving your current place or the previous places. So you really just want to have a clear, precise answer. Say that you're wanting more of a work-life balance because your current place you're working really long hours or potentially working in the weekend. You can literally kind of just say that and say you want more of a work-life balance back. You're happy to stay late whenever you need to, but every day and the weekends, it's just kind of time for me to move on. And you can kind of just leave it there. So it's just being confident in your answers and the reason for wanting to move on as well. And sometimes the reason for leaving might be it's not a nice environment anymore, or lots of people are kind of moving on for culture reasons. They want a really nice culture and work environment. So I think, again, you can kind of delve into it, but you really want to stay with the previous tip of staying positive. You don't want to be talking really badly about a previous place. It's just having those really clear answers. And then another tip that I think is really great is expressing your interests. So can also tie on for the reason for leaving, about how you've then seen this opportunity, you've spoken to them, you've done research on the company, and obviously if during the interview it's going really well and you are genuinely interested in the role, it is showing that enthusiasm and letting them know that you're really excited about the opportunity and you'd love to hear more about it. And it's really about showing how you're excited to work there. And then another tip would be engaging actively. So maintaining eye contact, nod when appropriate. You want to radiate positivity, so your energy and engagement will leave that lasting impression. So virtually it can be a little bit harder to convey your personality through a screen. So you really want to still be smiling and nodding, not looking around. And I know a couple of people have like to do this, is have their CV printed. I sometimes find that a bit distracting because you can see someone reading off their CV when the person you're meeting with already has your CV. It's more how you're presenting yourself. Maybe you could put some post-it notes around your laptop for key tips that you want, but it's really important just to be able to pay attention to the person you're meeting with. And then my last tip would be to prepare some informed questions. So I like to say to prepare at least 5 or 6 questions for the end of the interview. And the reason I say 5 to 6 is that you'll find most of your questions will be answered throughout the interview. But questions you could ask would be about training, what's the team culture like, what is the career progression. I kind of like to ask what are the challenges that they think I might find in the role, or what do they like about working here, what's the reason for the vacancy, and what's the handover like. So you can kind of, at the end of the interview, it's a chance for you to find out those questions that you really want to know about the company that you haven't been able to hear in the meeting or on the job description. So yes, so those are my brief interview tips. Thank you very much for listening. So these tips are designed to set you up for success. And remember, everyone gets nervous for interviews. So please be kind to yourself and just be yourself. So if you would like to get in touch with myself, please get in touch with me by my phone or email, or you can message me on LinkedIn. But yeah, go out there and shine in your interview. Thanks.
Great tips there, Katie. Thank you so much. For someone that's been at People to People for nearly 16 years, the idea of interviewing is nerve-wracking, even though I've literally done thousands of interviews. So lots of good tips and reminders in there as well. So thank you, Katie. Now I'll be joined by Vasila. So Vasila is going to share how People to People can help grow your career in the digital age.
Hi everyone, I specialize in recruiting within accounting, finance, and technology roles within the permanent space. Today, I'll be talking to you about how People to People utilizes multiple tools in the digital age to enhance your job search experience. So, when I think about digital, the first thing that pops into my mind is social platforms. So let's explore this first. The major platform that we're all aware of, professional network, is LinkedIn. So let's talk about LinkedIn first. I would recommend creating a professional LinkedIn profile where you're following pages, people, and companies that are relevant to your industry. Employers will definitely go and search you up on LinkedIn. So please be sure to spend time on how you're presented here. If you have a look, I will have my profile picture on the screen. It will show you how I present my LinkedIn page. It is simple. So you can see my picture there. You can see a cover photo. You can see my job title. There's a little bit about my experience, a little blurb. On the right-hand side, you can see my experience. So it's telling a little story, my education as well. So presenting yourself that way doesn't have to be anything fancy. Simple is good. The first thing client will do as well is they'll Google you. So LinkedIn comes with a LinkedIn URL, which you can edit. Make sure it's nice and tidy. So if you go under settings and go to edit, it comes up with your name, and then it has like a few numbers. So you can remove those and just have your name there. And a lot of candidates use this on their resumes so that clients can easily access their LinkedIn profile. Like I said before, use a nice photo of yourself, preferably professionally presented. I was also told that it's always nice to add a bit of personality to your LinkedIn profile. So it doesn't have to be all professional. So you can post about things that you actually care about as well. Things that really matter to you. I've seen a lot of people post lots of things about the marathons they run to support certain charities and things like that. Employees like to see things like that as well. I would also make sure that your resume and your LinkedIn profile are in sync. So nothing can be worse than when an employer is going to search you on LinkedIn and they've got your resume in front of you before they're meeting you for an interview, and they'll compare the dates and it's completely different. So sometimes it happens to the best of us. If we've changed jobs or things like that, we either forget to update our resume or update LinkedIn profile so that they both match. So just be mindful of those things. I think it's very important and shows attention to detail as well. They should tell a story about your past experiences. Now, asking people for LinkedIn recommendations, it also helps with your credibility that you can try and build on over time. So anyone, you can reach out to your current network, you can reach out to your current employers, your colleagues, or people from the past that you've worked with, liaised with, stakeholders, anyone, and then you can build that slowly over time as well. One thing for active job seekers, I think it's something that would be important to probably pay attention to is the open to opportunities tag that LinkedIn has. So if you go on the settings, there's a place where you can select who can view if you are open to opportunities. So sometimes people want that privacy off searching actively, but they don't want their current employers to be aware that they are, just so that there's no, uncomfortable situations. So LinkedIn does have that. If you go under settings and select, there's one for recruiters only and one where your entire network can see that you're open to opportunities. So whichever one you're comfortable with, you just select that one. So I found that to be quite handy as well. And recruiters will reach out to you as they come across your profile. So that's LinkedIn. Next, I wanted to talk to you about other social platforms. So making sure you're well presented on those as well. Some employers like to go beyond LinkedIn to get a better insight other than a resume as well. So leveraging off your social media will help you stand out from the rest. Employers can Google search you. So I would suggest Googling yourself as well if you haven't already, and just see what the first few things show up. So if you've updated your LinkedIn, that will come up as well. And just, have a review and just see what's coming up there. So you can probably edit some things if you need to. Facebook is also a very good platform for job searching. You're connecting with friends and families there. However, there's people and companies that that advertise jobs. So people to people post live weekly jobs on there as well, and that would be handy. So you can follow our page so that you're updated on the current job opportunities that we've got going. You can also follow any other local pages that are in your locality. So many companies within the suburbs, they like to advertise on Facebook to attract local talent. So if this is something, if location is like a priority to you, I would suggest following those local pages to assist in your job search. One thing I really do believe in is working smarter, not harder. So when you're searching for jobs, try and be efficient. I recommend that you make your job search efficient. In doing this, sometimes we're just scrolling and looking for jobs. However, to make things easier, I know that people to people have on our website, we have a page where you can set up job alerts for yourself. So you can see this on the screen at the moment. So that's what it looks like. You can put in the keywords. You can sort it out by your preference of pay, location, hybrid, whatever you want. Once you save this, what happens is it becomes sort of like a search engine for you, where you don't have to physically go and look for jobs. Once we post jobs that are relevant and hit those key nodes, or key criterias, the notification gets sent out to you, so you can review that. And then once you're if you think that this is something that's exciting and an interesting opportunity, you can reach out to us. You can give us a call and have a chat about it, and we'd be happy to help there. So next platform I would want to talk about would be Seek Talent and Indeed. So these are also great platforms to showcase your skill set and give access to talent seekers to reach out to you directly. Now, I wanted to emphasize the importance of being approachable easily. Sometimes recruiters are searching for details and they can't find you. They can see your experience is relevant to a job that they've got. So just ensure that you're easily approachable when it comes to digital activity. Yes, privacy is a big part of the fast-paced evolution of digital world. But I guess we can be smart about these things when building a professional presence online. So if you're not comfortable sharing your mobile on there on the resume, you can have your email address at least. At least someone can reach out to you that way. And then once the communication keeps going, you can share more information. But yeah, always try to build your best digital self. Okay, so that's the platforms that I've wanted to cover. Next, I would like to talk about is people-to-people's digital edge. So how we utilize multiple tools to enhance your job search experience. So I'm not sure if you're following us already on LinkedIn or other platforms, you'll see that most of our consultants are very I guess advanced, and they use a lot of videos on their profiles to, I guess, talk about the job opportunities that we have or any standout candidates that we've met with. So we use videos on LinkedIn and YouTube to gain traction and to reach a wider audience. Our videos typically are used to highlight current jobs, highlight standout candidates, and also share market insights on what the job front is looking like seasonally. We've had some really good feedback from clients as well, where they've actually reached out when we're talking about a standout candidate, or candidates, reaching out saying, oh, you spoke about this particular job opportunity, I'd like to know more. So yeah, if you haven't seen these, I would suggest if you connect with us on LinkedIn, you'll be privy to those things as well. Now, marketing profile is what I want to talk about next, is what we do in the background. So this is something that our amazing marketing team does. They send fortnightly updates to clients using a marketing profile. So this enables clients to request candidate resumes proactively. So once you're registered with us, you've met with us, the marketing happens in the background, actively helping you seek jobs in the process. So you don't have to do anything. And, if an employer requests for your resume, we reach out to you, and that's how we'll take that process forward. The next thing is virtual interviews. So I'm pretty sure post-COVID or during COVID, a lot of you have gone through this process. This is something that is becoming very common, and I believe it's truly efficient in this job search process. So it enables us to save everyone time, but also achieve what we're trying to achieve in this form of meet and greet. Some employees will also opt in for first round of virtual interviews, and then once you're successful, they'll request for a face-to-face interview process, just depending on their internal recruitment processes. Tips to really be mindful of: a virtual interview needs to be taken seriously. Make sure that you present professionally, you're smiling, your body language, your technology is working, your sound and everything. First impressions last, whether it's virtual or face-to-face. I think that, it does leave an impression. So just be mindful of those things and treat a virtual interview seriously for sure. Okay, so Vply is something that I'm very excited about personally. I've seen it being used firsthand. So people to people have recently introduced the use of Vply. So it's pretty much a tool where a set of questions are set out to candidates who have applied for a particular job to answer in a recording format. This helps us narrow down the pool of candidates and assist with the selection criteria. So I think this is a great tool, which I've actually seen my colleague use it firsthand. It helped us pretty much, narrow down the pool of candidates. It also helped the consultant and client work collaboratively and decide whom to proceed with to first round of interviewing. So it is something that can also assist in final decision making as well during the recruitment process. So anyone involved can go back to this video and reassess as well. So I see this as a huge time-saving tool as well for everyone included, including the candidates as well. So if you ever come across this process yourself, I would strongly encourage you to attempt it with all that you've got, just so that you've got the best shot out there, out of all the pool of candidates who have applied for that same role. Okay, so lastly, I wanted to express how important it is to build a strong relationship with your recruitment consultant. So we specialize in different sectors. We offer market knowledge and expertise that can help you narrow down your job search. Building relationships is essential, especially in the age of AI. I think it's very crucial that we still have that courtesy of picking up the phone, talking, and all of that, instead of, just electronic messaging and things like that. I personally like to get to know my candidates, what motivates them, so that I can help them align their goals and coach them to be the best that they can be. So yeah, get to know your recruiter. They will be the ones representing you. They, build rapport with them. And I believe also that honesty helps building that trust as well. We work in partnership, so we bridge those gaps between the job seeker and the employer. So yeah, if you're honest and tell us, open with what you're after in terms of your job search, we can definitely help you. We are approachable in many ways, which include texting, emailing. We also have a in-house CRM system, which is customized so that we can communicate with our candidates using various methods via each individual profile. So whichever suits our candidates. So Gen Z usually prefer texting, so we can do that as well. It's all customized, and we can reach out to you whichever way you prefer. If you're at work and things like that, it's just better ways of communication. At the end of the day, I feel the most effective communication method still is a phone call. I love to pick up the phone and talk to my candidates and meet and greet wherever possible. However, as recruiters, we are adaptable to all forms of effective communication. So yeah, happy to chat with you. To wrap up, at People to People, we prioritize time, your time and our time in this digital age, because essentially this is why the world is constantly evolving. So we can all save time to achieve things sooner rather than later. So let us partner with you in navigating the digital age job search. If you have been watching today, please reach out to us if you are looking for your next opportunity in Melbourne, or if you have any further questions about anything I have talked about today. I would love to hear from you. You can get in touch with me by phone or email. My details are on the screen. I'll be happy to just, connect with you as well on LinkedIn as well. So you can connect with me there, or just shoot me an email or have a chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Vasila. Love your insights. Such a good reminder of all the different platforms that are available to candidates and how to use them effectively. So yeah, that was great. So last but not least, I'd love to introduce Tom Alexander. He will be running you through counter offer and resignation management.
Thanks, Liz. To follow up from what Liz mentioned, so today I will be sharing some essential tips for the negotiation phase of your job search, specifically in how to handle counter offers. Counter offers are where, upon finding a new role, you are given a new offer by your current employer for them to try and retain you within that business. In today's job market, counter offers are becoming a more and more common recourse for employers to retain staff. In our 2023 Employment and Salary Trends survey, we found that 79% of hiring managers experienced more counter offers in 2022 than ever before. And while they're becoming more common, they're not actually becoming any easier to deal with. Not managing this process correctly can result in burning important relationships. It can result in missing great opportunities and even making a misstep in your career. So it is really important to come into these conversations prepared. With that in mind, I've put together 5 tips for how to handle counter offers. Firstly, reflect on your reasons for leaving. Before you decide to resign from your role, it's really important to assess exactly what your motivations for finding a new role or looking for a new role are. Is it solely the paycheck, or are there deeper issues that prompted you to leave? While better compensation, a higher salary is definitely appealing and it catches people's eyes, for a lot of people, it's not really the reason they wanted to leave the role in the first place. So if it's not really the reason you wanted to leave, is it going to make you happy in the long run in that role? Consider if the new offer genuinely addresses the root causes of why you wanted to leave in the first place, whether it's work-life balance, career growth, work environment. Reflecting on these issues will really make you be able to have an informed decision in that process. Secondly, make sure you communicate professionally. Effective communication is key when dealing with counteroffers. Maintaining open, honest communication with both your current employer and the potential new employer. Express gratitude for the counteroffer and from your current employer. Acknowledge their efforts to retain you as well. but also you need to explain your motivations. You need to explain why you're looking to leave, what's going to make you stay. Be as honest as you can in that communication. Remember that professionalism and courtesy go a long way in ensuring that your career transition is a successful one. You don't want to be working in a environment and with people that you've had a bad experience with going into getting that new job or that counter offer. So open conversation, I think, is really the key to ensuring that you get the best offer you can from the situation. Thirdly, take the time to make the right decision. Counter offers can often be thrust upon us quite quickly when our current employer finds out that we're thinking about leaving. So make sure you feel, you take the time rather to make the correct decision. Don't feel compelled to answer immediately. What is important though is that when you do take this time, you need to communicate openly with how long you think it's going to take and stick to it. Offers are never going to stay on the table forever. So it's really important that, if you say that, hey, can I please have 24 hours to think this over? You actually have an answer by the end of that 24 hours rather than wasting their time further. Again, this is just going to damage the relationship. Fourth, cultivate strong relationships. Similar to what I just mentioned, it's really important that long-term you continue to build these relationships. Even though the counter offer process is going to be a quick one, ultimately you can't accept both roles, so it's going to be over eventually. But it's really important that either way, no matter which offer you choose, you are retaining good relationships with both sides. And a part of this is what I mentioned earlier, making sure that you're communicating openly and honestly and respectfully, but it's also following up. Add both parties on LinkedIn if you haven't already. Stay in touch. Hiring managers are going to continue having vacancies. It's not just going to be a one-off for them. So if you do keep in touch and maintain a strong relationship long-term, it may, even when you turn down a role, having that connection may lead to a better role in the future that's more suited to your goals and what you want. And finally, don't stress. While navigating the counter offer process can feel a little bit like walking a tightrope, ultimately, if it is done right, it's a benefit only to you. Having a second offer on the table is never really going to have a downside to it. It's only a second option that you can take and that can potentially be the right one for you. So make sure you go into the conversation prepared. And if you do that, there's really nothing to stress about. It's all for your benefit. So if you'd like to talk further about counter offers and how to navigate them, how to work within this space, or if you just want to talk about your next career move or recruitment in general, please give me a call. My number is on the screen there, as well as my, feel free to add me on LinkedIn as well. My name is Tom. I work for Temporary and Business Support Recruitment.
Great tips there, Tom. Thank you so much. What can be a really stressful situation, it's always good to have a clear idea of how you should run through that difficult process. So what I'd love to do now is refer to a number of the questions that have been coming through throughout the presentations. If you have been holding off, feel free to add your question in the comment section now. But I will start off with Emily's question. So with resignations, the highest reason for vacancies, do you see that going up as we close to the end of the year? So great question, Emily. So in terms of resignations, of course, they can happen at any time of the year, but there is definitely a mindset of new year, new job. So we do see candidates actively looking for a new role now. It also depends on the type of role and your employment contract, and also if there's any bonuses or commissions payable. Often people will wait until salary review time or bonus time before they start proactively looking. But certainly, if you yourself are looking for a role to start in the new year, a lot of businesses are really being very proactive interviewing this side of Christmas, this side of office shutdowns, to have new starters either start and get some of their training completed this side of Christmas, or with a contract with a New Year start date. So yeah, watch this space. So next question is from Isabella. So you mentioned that one of the busiest industries at the moment is in healthcare or construction. Given the whole idea of being able to transfer relevant skills other than to another industry, what would be the best strategy for doing this in those? So great question. So obviously there is going to be particular roles that is looking for specific qualifications and specific experience. So for example, jumping into a nursing role, you would need to have those qualifications, or going into a builder role, you would need to have your qualifications complete. But if that's something you're looking at getting exposure to, seeing if there's any internships or apprenticeships or other work experience opportunities. But if it's more of an office-based position and it's more about moving from industry to industry, more businesses are now looking at transferable skills, which is great. But if you can highlight any relevant experience that you've got. So for example, if you are ideally looking to work with one of the big construction players, but you've worked for one of their subcontractors in the past, or if on a job advertisement they mention a particular system is what they're looking for, you might not have the construction experience, but you've got the system experience. That's probably at its core one of the essential transferable skills. So obviously picking up the phone and having a chat to the recruiter or the person that's managing the recruitment process can always get you to stand out from the crowd, and that professional phone call and phone manner, build that rapport and try and sell yourself over the phone if you feel like your resume isn't going to translate in an abundance of applications as well. So, but thanks for that question. Next question from Ava. What would you say is more advantages of doing an interview in person or virtually? So yes, so in-person interviews versus virtual. So if you have the choice, Ava, I'd highly recommend making the effort to have an in-person interview. Some organisations do have a virtual interview first round, and then if all goes well, then you're invited into the office. But if you do get the choice, I'd highly recommend that you go into the office. Not only will it benefit you to get a feel for the office, the commute, the team, the environment, but also you'll be able to present yourself best in person, to show your personality, some of the things that Katie was talking about in terms of your style and your mannerisms. It's much easier to convey that in person. So I would personally say that in person is always better. Virtual, yes, convenient, but there also can be issues with tech, you will be more memorable if you can have that in-person interaction as well. So another question from Ava. How would I handle a salary discussion when interviewing? Do I mention it in the first interview? That's a really good question. So if you are working with a recruiter, we take that stress out of the negotiation and the conversation for you. So we would discuss with you during our interview what is your current salary and what are you targeting for your next role, and we'd be really clear with you on what the budget is that the business that we're recruiting for has, and then what we're representing you at. So if the interviewer does ask you about your salary expectations and you have been represented by a recruiter, in that moment you can simply say, I'm happy for Liz to take care of that conversation, but and if you feel comfortable, you can say, I understand that the salary that I've been put forward at is X, but you can always leave that to the recruiter as well. If you've applied to a role directly, I'd imagine that that would be one of the first questions that you would be asked in an initial phone screen, or like Vasila said, in a video interview, it would be one of the screening questions that's asked. But absolutely have confidence in discussing salary. You want to make sure that you're on the same page with the employer. So you should feel comfortable discussing what you're targeting for your next role. So there's no there's no grey area, and then there's no disappointment when you get to offer and it's different to what you anticipated. So I would actually encourage you to have that conversation early, so you're not wasting time, and everyone's on the same page as well. What other questions do we have? So would it be considered inappropriate to reach out or connect with someone on LinkedIn after applying? I'll take from that question that you've applied to a role on Seek, and the hiring manager or the person running the process, their contact details are on the advertisement. I'd say there's no harm in connecting on LinkedIn. As Vasila said, they're ultimately probably going to track you down on LinkedIn anyway. So if you are going to do that, I'd just make sure that your profile looks as schmick as possible. So where you've got a really professional photo, that your LinkedIn profile mirrors your resume. So yeah, there's no harm in saying, following on from my application, I would love to connect with you, something along those lines, or I look forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions about my application, here's my contact details, something like that. A lot of people are more online now with their initial communication than ever before. So yeah, I would say go for it, definitely. Now, another question, what is the best way to handle a situation after I quit and having rejected a counter offer already where my manager wants to extend my finish date? You're clearly someone that they want to retain there. So I would try and find a happy medium with your new employer and the business that you're exiting. So try and give as much notice as possible if clearly they're going to be in a bit of a bind once you leave. Obviously provide a really thorough handover, a document that the next person that takes it on your role can refer to. And it's always nice to keep the communication lines open. So for example, you could say, like, look, if there's anything that you're unsure of, like, I'm happy to take calls once I've started in a new role if you're really stuck, and I can just talk you through how to find something or work on a particular system if you feel comfortable with that. But otherwise, if you just want to finish off and shake hands and part ways, just make sure you've got a really good handover document that is ready for the next person who's going to take your role. But if that's a current situation and your manager's really stressed, we'd be more than happy to help with that recruitment process as well. So you can look forward to your new position. So a couple more questions. So reaching out to recruiters and initial discussions are often done over the phone. Can you give us some tips on how to make a great first impression to recruiters or hiring managers over a phone call? As Vasila said, we love talking to candidates over the phone. So it shows being proactive, it shows a level of confidence. So yeah, we encourage people, if you have the relevant experience, to pick up the phone. So I would make sure that you've got the job advertisement and your resume in front of you. There's nothing worse than receiving a call and obviously the intention was to make a good impression, but you can't remember what job you were interested in, or you can't remember who was advertising the role. So we do have hundreds of positions that our branch is managing at any one time. So just having all of that information in front of you can just help you get through to the right person straight away. And yeah, it's, I guess, your opportunity to sell yourself. So just being really clear on why you think you are suitable for the role and what you think the hooks are to make it enticing for us to take the next step and organise an interview. So I think just being prepared and really clear will help us help you at the same time as well. So and the same would apply if you're calling an employer directly to speak to the hiring manager or the internal recruiter as well. So which is the stronger in selection of candidates, Seek or LinkedIn? So as an agency, we are using both platforms daily. So obviously on LinkedIn, your profile, you can have your picture, and as Vasila said, you can include recommendations and really map out your skills. You can do that, of course, on a resume, so you can have your profile picture and all of those links and recommendations. So it's they're both great, Mohammed. So I would say I'd highly recommend, if you're actively looking for work right now, to make sure that both your profiles are very up to date and very professional, and just making sure it's highlighting all of your relevant and transferable skills as well. So that is the last question that's come through. I'll leave it for 30 seconds or so. If anyone has any other burning questions, feel free to send them through now. But I'll take this opportunity to say thank you so much for everyone for joining us today. We hope that you've at least gained a tip or two with your job search. So I'd also like to thank Katie, Vasila and Tom for joining me this afternoon. So you can connect with our team on our main line, which is 1300 338 546, and you're welcome to connect with our team on LinkedIn and our other socials as well. We hope you've enjoyed this webinar. We'll keep you posted with future webinars and events. If we can help you with your job search or any of the application processes, we'd love to give you that advice as well. So enjoy the rest of your afternoon, and thank you for joining us today.